Hello everybody and welcome back to our introductory course on machine learning. This is video 5 and it's going to be on basis expansions. Previously I mentioned that we might talk about regularization. We're actually not going to dive into that because, well, it's really math intensive, very technical, and ultimately unnecessary for an introductory course. So we're going to save you that hardship and just talk about basis expansions, which are much more useful. Thank you for listening to this video, and this is a presentation by Eduonix. Alright, so what's the big idea? Well, in the past we have been using linear models. However, it's ultimately unlikely that the true function we are trying to model is actually linear in the inputs. In this video, we'll continue discussing some popular methods for moving beyond linearity. So the core idea is to augment or replace the vector of our inputs, x, with additional variables, which are going to be transformations of our inputs, and then we can use linear models in this new space of derived input features. So this is actually kind of similar to the kernel methods that we talked in the previous video when we were talking about support vector machines. However, this is going to allow us to move past that a little bit. Kernel methods were actually a replacement for a dot product of basis functions when we were mapping our inputs to a higher dimensional space so that we could separate them with a hyperplane in the support vector machine. This is actually going to allow us to do some additional things because we are not just forming a hyperplane, we can actually have all sorts of different functions, and we'll see that a little bit later in this video. So what is a linear basis expansion? Well, a linear basis expansion is just going to be denoted by h of m and is going to be some transformation of our inputs x. So here we have our updated linear model. In the past we just had our beta times our inputs x, usually the transpose of our inputs x. Here, instead of that transpose, we have our basis expansion denoted h of m. And also, we can have more than just one basis expansion. So we're also going to have a summation here from 1 to capital M, m being the total number of bases that we are going to use. So the beauty of this approach is that once the basis functions h of m have been determined, the models are linear in these new variables, and the fitting proceeds as before when we were doing linear regression or linear classification. So let's take a look at some common examples of basis expansions. The first one here is actually just a constant, and you might see this, it seems counterintuitive and unnecessary, but you might see it in more complex problems, and this is simply going to recover the original linear model. But actually the second example is the one we are going to use and see more often, is the polynomial, and this allows us to augment the inputs with polynomial terms to achieve higher order Taylor expansions. It's important to note, however, that the number of variables is going to grow exponentially in the degree of the polynomial. So it's important to keep that in mind computationally going forward. So our basis expansion here is just on the left a square. However, we can have any multiplication of our inputs denoted on the right side to achieve higher order Taylor expansions. The last example here is just a log or a square root or similar mathematical functions such as these. And for example, if we had data that was following a logarithmic trend, logarithmic data, we could use this basis function, just the log of our inputs, to achieve a linear model that we could then solve. Alright, so sometimes this problem will call for a particular basis functions, such as the logarithms or powers. However, more often we are just going to use the basis expansions as a device to achieve more flexible representations for the function that we are trying to model, f of x. And when we're talking about polynomials, tweaking the coefficients to achieve a functional form in one region could cause the function to be inaccurate in remote regions. And you can kind of see this more often in higher order polynomials. But we're actually going to be able to use piecewise polynomials and splines, and we'll talk about splines later, that are going to allow for a local polynomial representation. So what exactly do I mean about that? Let's keep talking and hopefully it will become more clear. So piecewise polynomials and splines. And here the approach is going to be to divide the domain of x, our inputs, into intervals and then represent f of x with a separate basis function in each interval. So this avoids the problem of polynomials going wide or going crazy at the boundaries of our data, and allows us to actually separate them into different intervals so that we can more accurately represent them with these basis functions. Okay. So here we have a piecewise linear example to display kind of what I mean by this. And in this first example, we have just a piecewise constant. So here we have a function that is fit to some artificial data. The broken vertical lines are going to indicate the position of the two knots, and by a knot we just mean where we are fitting this data together or where we are dividing our piecewise function. And then the blue curve is going to represent the true function from which this data was generated with Gaussian noise. So we have two knots in this example, and in our three intervals we just have a constant approximation for the data. And you can see that we can actually continue to improve on that by doing a piecewise linear example. Here in each interval we have a linear function modeling all of that data. And then finally in this third example we have a continuous piecewise linear example. And so not only are we using linear models, but we have the requirement that they are restricted to being continuous at the knots. So this is a good way to model a piecewise function that is going to use these different basis functions in each interval. Here the basis function is just linear. However, let's move on to the polynomial example, because this is actually the one we ultimately want to get to. So the piecewise cubic polynomials. In the first example, we have discontinuous functions. At the knots, there is no requirements, and an individual polynomial has been used to fit the data in each interval. So we're using three different basis functions here, no requirements at the knots. However, we can progress and continue to become more and more continuous. In the top right, you see where the function is continuous. In the bottom ones, we start to have our first derivative and our second derivative also continuous. So the function in the lower right panel is continuous and has continuous first and second derivatives at the knots. This is known as a cubic spline. So as soon as we start requiring that the higher order derivatives are continuous, we get what is known as a cubic spline. It's important to note, you might hear this in other papers or textbooks, a fixed knot spline, something where we are having requirements at the borders here, are also known as regression splines. And then finally, we should also talk about the natural cubic spline. So actually, we know the behavior of polynomials fit to data trends tends to be erratic near the boundaries, and extrapolation can be inaccurate in a lot of scenarios. These problems are actually exacerbated with splines. One global polynomial is going to be more accurate at the boundaries than a piecewise cubic polynomial or a cubic spline. So a natural cubic spline adds additional constraints, namely that the function is linear beyond the boundary knots. So we only have two knots here. Those would both be the boundary knots, so it's going to be linear outside of that. And what that actually allows us to do is add more knots in the interior and actually become a little bit more accurate that way too. So we're not going to cover it much more than that, but it is important to note that if you hear the term natural cubic splines, just know that it is a linear fit outside of the boundary knots. Okay, so this is just a really quick introduction. Oh, and here we go. This is a cubic spline. Just a really quick introduction to basis expansions. You will learn a little bit more about these when we actually dive into some programming examples and we can see how using basis functions actually improves our fit. However, in an introductory course, you just need to know that they exist, and moving forward in your particular applications of machine learning, it might be necessary to dive in a little bit deeper. Well, thanks for listening. Our next video is going to be actually the important one of this unit, and that is on model selection procedures and parameters. So how do you actually decide which model is going to be the best model for your data, and how do you apply that? And along that same vein, we're going to do a Python project, which I'm actually very excited about, which is going to explore a couple of these different models and use some of those model selection procedures. So keep listening. Thanks.